Okay, recording in progress. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Excited to be here again. Okay, so we're gonna start today with we're gonna revisit the purpose of why we're here and also the foundations that we talked about last time. And then we're gonna move on to level 2, which is digging within yourself. So several topics about going within, right? Because last time I said everything starts within. Okay. Okay. So the purpose is to have increases in peace, joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. That's the whole reason for this series, right? Again, and Jim, I pared down the Zoom recording from last time that I'm going to share with Kevin so you can rewatch. But it's really about my story was going from, I call it a journey from grief to great, right? I was in a really dark hole. And how did I get myself out of it to have this life of greater peace, joy, satisfaction, fulfillment? And then the idea is, right, if I can do it, then you can do it. And me just sharing all these things that I've learned along the way to help me get there. Okay, so that's our purpose of being here. And again, to revisit the foundations, which I'm also going to pull up real quick that recap because I like this. So Kevin had shared this with you all a couple weeks after the first event. Yeah, I can zoom in here a little bit. Zoom in. But small, but so the foundations were living in your conscious versus subconscious, right? So the example of driving a car, right? You get in, all those things you do to start driving, you don't think about that subconscious, right? And how we can make new grooves in our subconscious by being conscious, okay? Next is awareness, super huge foundational item. Just noticing more of yourself, noticing more of what's going on around you, being present in the present moment instead of living in the past or the future. You're living right now. And then I gave you practice, right? To stop and check your senses. Life is about lessons and evolution, learning and growing, right? So the foundation was just to start considering that. And self-love, huge one, right? Loving yourself, accepting yourself, forgiving yourself, giving yourself all those things that you need. And deprogramming, so questioning everything, seeking your own truth, realizing what in your life, what experiences have shaped you, maybe for the good or for the not so good, and then flipping the things that aren't serving you. And then I added for Kevin, when he shared this with you, a bonus item of authenticity. Because I was thinking about it afterwards. I'm like, oh, it's a huge foundation. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, right? So the definition of authenticity is the quality of being authentic. And then the definition of authentic is not false or copied, genuine or real. So authenticity is the quality of being genuine. Okay, so why is this important? Okay, I realized that I was somewhat of a people pleaser. I was doing the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. I was wearing masks. I wasn't my true self. And especially right when I had the spontaneous awakening, there were people in my life that were not okay with that. Like my dad, he was like, you can't tell anyone about that. Don't tell anybody. And I was like, Dad, this is my truth. I'm not going to just hide it away. Like, this stuff is really happening to me. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I didn't expect it. Yeah, people might not believe it, but it is my truth. And as you all might know, I know Kevin from our BNI group. And when I went into the group, right, so I'm this crystal lady, right? There's a lot of white collar and blue collar professionals, right? We got bankers, lawyers, insurance agents. There's a lot of people in the trades. And I'm like, are these people going to accept me? I'm pretty different. I had my first one-on-one with Bob Kane. He sells supplements and he's like a horse rancher guy, really magical, sweet guy. And I told him my whole story, like I told you. I was crying with him, and he was totally accepting of me. So that's when I knew, okay, I need to just go in there and tell these people my truth and just own it. And what I've realized is that being authentic really just makes you glow. And I've read studies, I've heard studies where they measure like the energy emitted from a person. And one would think that maybe the highest energy was that of love, but no, the highest energy is that of authenticity. And I've even noticed when I do vendor events, I sell my crystals at vendor events, and just vibing high, being myself just attracts the people in like a magnet. So authenticity, taking your masks off, being your goofy self, being exactly who you are is so important because we're all unique. We're all made to be exactly the way we are, which is different from every single other person. And so you've got to shine who you were meant to be. Any thoughts, anything anybody want to share on authenticity? No? No? Okay. All right, so those are the foundational items. Okay, right? Conscious versus subconscious, awareness, living in the present, lessons in evolution, self-love, deprogramming, and authenticity bonus. Okay, now level 2, digging within the self. Okay, so the first topic is creating your own happiness. Okay, I believe when I told you about the story of what happened at the beach when the ish went down with the shaman lady, and then I was in a tarot reading the next day, and the woman told me, and this stuck with me so much, because at that time in 2021, well, in 2020, when COVID hit, I got way into the stock market and I was just throwing money in the stock market, throwing money in the stock market. I was on the financial independence, retire early movement, which was like, okay, if I save most of my money for the next 10 years, I can retire, right? I'll have like a million and a half. I'll just retire. That's what I was doing. And so for that year, 2021, I had a big net worth goal. I was like, okay, I'm going to get to this number. And I actually drew a picture of a dollar sign and I was like filling it in as I went. Um, and in that reading, the woman said, like, you think that you get to that number, you're going to be happy. You think that you get that partner, you're going to be happy. You think that you get this and you get that, and that's going to make you happy. She's like, no, you need to create your own happiness for yourself right now, whether you have those things you desire or not. And that really, really hit home with me. Um, here's a perfect example of that. Okay, my best friend is a doctor. Okay, like a full-on doctor. She's a radiologist, tons of school, tons of money, lots of work. She thought when she would finally get that job making 300, 400,000, that boom, there it is. And she got the job and nothing changed. She was making all that money and nothing changed. She thought getting to that point would make this big difference in her life. She's worked decades, her entire life, to get to this point, and she didn't feel any different, right? So you've got to choose every day, every moment, how you want to feel. Anyone have anything they want to say about that? Yeah. Yeah, so you have that choice at any moment. How you want to feel, how you want to put yourself out there to other people, what brings you joy. Mm-hmm. That's a great point, Isaiah. Yes, and I'm going to reiterate that because I realized watching over the other one, maybe you guys weren't heard. Um, but yeah, you said that, if you keep chasing that thing, you get it, you're not happy. You're going to chase the next thing, you're not happy. It's so true. It's so true. Okay, so that leads us to the next point of gratefulness, right? So cultivating gratefulness is huge, right? I think about it in terms of the little things, the big things. Even just this morning, I was talking to Kevin on the way here, and I'm grateful for him that he's doing. Yesterday, his headspace was, and it's much better today. So I'm like, oh, that's a great thing. Yes. Um, I'm grateful that Kevin's invited me. Your kitties, you're gonna have some kitties. They're gonna bring joy to you and your kids for a temporary period of time. That's something to be grateful for. I have a trio of kitties at home. Two of them are super affectionate, and the one, he's like 17 pounds, big fluff. He likes to lay right across my chest here, be right on me. He likes me to carry him around like a baby. And I tell him thank you all the time because it's so sweet, the affection and the love that he gives me. Um, grateful for um, getting here, not after 8:30. All the little and the big things. I say that if you cultivate gratefulness, you're grateful for this, and that, things that maybe you took for granted before, then it adds up and life brings you more things to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. Um, Sometimes I think back on this wild journey. It's been almost 3 years, and all the synchronicities of Shaman Lady coming to save me, and Kevin inviting me to do this series, and just so many things. And sometimes, if I really sit back and think about it, it brings me to tears of gratefulness. And having that again will just bring so much more to you to be grateful for. So these are huge. Not that's why they're level 2, because they are relatively foundational, but I wanted to get, only so much can be on the foundation. Any thoughts on that? Anything anyone want to share about gratefulness? No? Okay. All right. Well, in the first session, we talked about starting to consider that life is about lessons and evolution. So now it's about finding the lessons, right? So not only accepting that they're a part of life, but finding them, right? And kind of what goes along with that is I believe that challenges are gifts because they bring us lessons, knowledge, strengths, right? So, for example, right, me working through my challenges with my dad, right, and not accepting me. Um, while that was very challenging, and I've cried a lot of tears about it because we don't talk anymore, um, I've accepted the lessons in there of that, I need to have compassion for him and who he is. And I realized that he's operating out of his fear. And I can't pull him out of that. So I have to have compassion for, who he is and what he's going through. And while I wish that my father accepted me, while I wish that he loved me unconditionally, that's not what it is, right? So my lesson is to accept him as he is. So that's my example. But I mean, there's lessons we can find all day long. Like I should have gone to bed earlier, and maybe I would have been here by 8:15, right? I wouldn't have woken up late. Or even just little lessons on the job, right? Maybe you make a mistake and you're like, oh, okay, next time I'll do that different. Even to the bigger things, right? Like my mom was a single mother, and she raised my brother and I on her own. So, while that was super challenging, right? For us, her not being there as much, yes, we had all of our needs met, but we didn't have as many wants as we desired. But that gave me a lot of independence, right? I was cooking and doing my own laundry as a young teenager. And I learned the value of a dollar, right? I had to work to make my own money. So while that was a challenging time for all of us, there was so much that my brother and I gained from it. So this can be a hard one to wrap your mind around, that challenges are gifts. But if you look at them that way, then you can be grateful for them. Okay. Next up, okay. So related to awareness. So this is being an observer of your thoughts and emotions and detaching from them. Okay. So, right, we talked about awareness of, what's going on in yourself, what's going on around you. But this is kind of taking it to the next level, right? So, and again, moving from the subconscious to the conscious, right? So our minds are probably going all day long, right? We're thinking about this, that, and the other thing. But if we step back and almost like as an outsider and watch our thoughts, watch our emotions, then we can say, oh, wait, no. Like for example, okay, one of the really important things in self-love is speaking highly about yourself, right? So not poking fun at yourself, not calling yourself names in your head or out loud. Okay. I think a lot of people do like self-depreciating or deprecating humor, right? Like, oh, I'm such an idiot. No. So if I ever say something like that, then I tell myself, oh no, that's not right. I catch myself, right? I try to do it before I think it or before I say it. But even if I do think it or say it, you say, no, time out, no. I don't actually think that, and that's how you can rewire yourself. This is particularly important with emotions, okay? Say you get really upset about something. You can step back and say, whoa, look at that. Oh my gosh, I'm getting really upset. What is going on here? Okay, dude, is this a valid thing to be upset about? Or should I, reel myself in and bring myself under control? And that's how you can detach from that. I'm trying to think. This is a little bit complicated. I'm trying to think of like a better way to explain this.
Well, Jack, I think, so I develop and always, I think it's right. You get awkward, you're not doing things are going smooth, so you try to usually do it at your own expense because you make it also comfortable. And I think what you said as far as direct, like, no, I don't actually think I'm involved. I don't actually think that I'm not doing it. It's just like you say, try to put else needs, you know. I think it's interesting to see here. It's very common for them to happen where people aren't sure how to do that. They're not sure how their message is being received. So they just throw that out there as kind of an olive branch of, well, it's okay if you don't get it. It's not crazy. That it's like, no, you're not. Some people don't know how to do that. I think is people focus on like their own development, their own growth. That's definitely especially
Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Jim. And this relates to, and I think it's worth bringing up. One of the books that I recommend to anyone who will listen is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Basically, what he's saying, and it's a Toltec wisdom book. So the Toltec culture was in Mexico, like the ancients before um, like the indigenous culture. So it's one of them. And since the awakening and digging into shamanism, I've found a lot of resonance with Toltec prophecies and wisdom. So Don Miguel Ruiz talks about how we're all programmed, right? All of the conditioning, all of the agreements that we've made to believe this or not believe that. And he says if we let go of all of that, let go of all of it, and just agree to these four things, then we can live a life of peace, joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. And the first one is speak impeccably about yourself and others. And that is your thoughts and your words, because they're so powerful. And it's also don't make assumptions is one of them, right? Clarify if you're unsure what they meant, right? Because assumptions, you can conjure up entire stories, right? Which is what my dad has done. He hasn't talked to me much, but he's conjured up entire stories of my beliefs and what I'm doing. According to my cousins, he thinks I'm like a witch. I'm like, I don't, yeah, I'm casting spells, all this stuff. He's made all these assumptions. So speak impeccably, don't make assumptions, don't take it personally. Okay, anything that other people do and say is mostly a projection of them, not it usually doesn't have to do with you. So don't take it personally. And then the fourth agreement is do your best, which in any moment and any day can be different, right? My best right now in this moment maybe like 90% of where I was when I was here a month ago, to be honest. And that's okay, right? Like, I've been pretty busy with selling my crystals at vendor events. So I had 2 weekends in a row, and last Monday, this week, I had all the stuff I wanted to do, but instead my body was like, just chill out. And I was like, okay, that's my best for today. And that's okay. And being okay with that, giving yourself grace that, maybe right now I'm not as good as I was yesterday, but that's okay because I'm doing my best. And we'll get into this at a later session too, but just to throw it out there, with speaking impeccably is watching the words that you use. So I do my best to, instead of use the word try, I say I'm doing my best, right? Because trying implies that you aren't there, or that you can't do it, or that you're not good enough, something along those lines. But if you say, well, I'm doing my best, I'm not just trying, I'm doing it the best that I can. So that was a little tangent there, but an important one, right? Speak impeccably. And so in that same vein, right, you can sit back and watch your thoughts and watch your emotions and say, oh no, okay, you can either agree with it and lean into it, right? Or you can say, wait, time out. I don't agree with that. Let me flip that. Flip what I'm saying in my head or out loud, or flip my emotions. I believe that everything that happens is neutral until we assign meaning to it, right? Maybe you love the rain. Maybe you've been waiting for a day to go out and sing and dance in the rain, and you're like, the rain's here, or maybe you're a farmer, right? And your crops are dry, and you're like, please, rain, please, right? Or maybe you're running a marathon that day, and you're like, oh no, it's raining. I'm going to be soaking wet. But everything that happens is neutral. I'll give you a quick story. So there's an old story of the guy. Okay, so his horse ran off, and everyone's like, "Oh no, your horse ran away. That's so bad." And he said, maybe. So then his horse comes back with other horses. They're like, oh, now you have a bunch of horses. That's great. He said, maybe. And his son's out riding the horses one day and he falls and breaks his arm. Oh no, your son broke his arm. That's terrible. He said, maybe. Well, then there was a military draft and his son didn't get drafted because he had a broken arm. So that's where that story, I love that story, right? Because each of those things, programming tells us that they're good or bad, but he's saying, I don't know, it could go either way. He's neutral, and then the other side of the coin is what is happening. So, and that's again how we can find challenges as gifts, right? You flip that coin to turn it into a positive. Okay, and that's it for session 2, digging within. Because right, everything starts there and then it ripples out from there. No need to be sorry. Side note, that's something that I really work on myself, saying sorry. I used to say sorry all the time. I feel like it was like a people pleaser behavior. And there's so much that you don't need to say sorry for, right? Because when you're being your authentic self, then you don't have anything to apologize for. So then by having that awareness, you can stop and say, oh no. So be aware of when it comes out. You can even pinpoint like if there's like a pattern of moments that it happens, and then be more aware at those times to not do it. And that's why being an observer of your thoughts and emotions, you can no, time out, no, there's nothing to be sorry for. And I still catch myself. I've been working on the use of the word try for months, if not years now, and it still comes out. It's practice. Mm-hmm. It's practice, and you give yourself grace along the way as you're working to make these changes for yourself. Yes. So be grateful that be grateful for yourself, that you're giving yourself that grace, and be grateful for those moments with your kids, with your loved ones. You know, I don't have kids, right? But right, so the best I have is when my kitty is like rubbing his head in my neck. Like, I love you too, kitty. But yeah, I can't imagine being a parent and how difficult that is, right? Like you're on 24/7 trying to be your best you and shape them into amazing little people. And I'm sure that's very challenging. So yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine. I go to my brother's. He and his wife are there. They have 3 kids, and I'm like on the whole time, and I'm not doing it by myself, and I'm exhausted. So I can't imagine doing it yourself. But yeah, definitely giving yourself that grace, being grateful for all those moments, even even the times when you sit back and you're like, I wish I handled that differently. That's okay, because now you've that challenge gave you that new knowledge, right? That you can put into your awareness to then do something different the next time. One thing that really helped me too is taking pressure off myself. I realized, especially in corporate America during COVID, right? I was in this deep depression, crying like every day, trying to go into meetings, trying to do my best. And, you know, I always had set a really high bar for myself. And I was like, telling my bosses, like, I'm not doing good, you know, like, this isn't what I'd like to be. And I realized that they all thought I was doing a good job. All of my coworkers, my bosses, everyone thought I was doing a good job. I was the only one who didn't think that I was. And I realized that I was putting a ton of pressure on myself to, you know, perform at this level, the same level that I used to be, while circumstances were different, right? We were at home. Everyone was challenged by COVID. And I realized that we all do this so much, right? Like trying to be the best parent, trying to be the best child to our parents, trying to be the best sibling, trying to be the best partner, beating ourselves up because we're not. And you have to stop that as soon as you can, because that's not serving you. That's not serving you. All that pressure that we put on ourselves, while at times it may help push us to perform, there's a point where you cross the line and it's too much and it's not helping. So think about areas where you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself where you can take some of that off, right? Because again, I realized that nobody else was putting that pressure on me that I was putting on myself, and I was doing good enough, and I didn't need to be putting that pressure on myself. So consider that as well. I think maybe a lesson is acceptance of him. And, you know, as much as kind of like my dad, as much as I wish that we were closer, that's not the case. And I can't, and this is kind of something we're going to talk about next time, I can't control him. There's a lot that we can't control. That's going to be a lot that we talk about next time. So radical acceptance, accepting him for who he is, even if it's not what you wish he was. So that could be a lesson there. Or another one could be taking a different approach with him. So this was something that I thought about a lot with my mom. After she passed away, right? I was in stress mode when I was taking care of her. So I was not thinking straight. Everything was coming from my subconscious because I was super stressed out. But in retrospect, I was thinking, well, if I could have done something differently or approached her differently or thought about something differently, maybe I would have gotten a different result. Because I think oftentimes we go at situations the same way that we always have, expecting something different. But of course, we're going to get the same thing. So the lesson could be maybe trying a different way to connect with him. And while you can learn other perspectives, learn about other relationships, come up with different approaches, you still have to accept that you can't control him. Everything that you do may or may not yield a different result, and you have to be okay with that as well, because he's his own person. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, I appreciate being here and the opportunity to speak with you all. I hope that you're finding valuable tidbits in these conversations that you can implement in your life to make it one with more peace, joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Thank you.
All good?